Tom retired from his 9-to-5 at Ford Motor at the age of 43 through a combination of savings and stock market investments, despite the fact that he didn't have a penny to his name on the day he graduated college. At the age of 23, Tom graduated from the University of Michigan, Dearborn. He majored in mechanical engineering, just like his father. He had gotten a job at General Motors before even graduating, which his entire family praised. What's the big deal? Tom wondered in his head. Tom had always felt that he desired something different from life than his peers. This feeling was reinforced during my first few weeks at General Motors. Tom ran into his boss, James, who had worked for the company long enough to earn himself a golden watch. James seemed proud of his watch, but Tom couldn't help but think, wow, he's still in the same place, doing the same thing as he did when he was my age. James seemed to spend his days doing what he had to do rather than what he wanted to do. Tom recognized this because all James talked about during lunch was wild boar hunting, not improvements of the assembly line at General Motors. Tom had observed a similar pattern in his father, who enjoyed going on hikes but could only do so once a month due to his demanding work schedule. Making money, ironically, seemed to cost them too much. This video will walk you through the 3 stages Tom went through to achieve financial independence. You will notice that different things are important at different stages, but keep one thing in mind from the start. If Tom hadn't been investing, he might have tried to reach his $1 million target. He could have told this story at the age of 57 instead of 43 if he had only relied on his engineering salary. Tom earned 14 years of the most valuable currency in life by investing. You'll discover what Tom prioritized as a stock market investor, what he prioritized outside of investing, and perhaps most importantly, what he didn't do. This is The Swedish Investor, and I'm here to bring you the best tips and tools for achieving financial independence through stock market investing. Stage 1. Tom's journey from $0 to $20,000. This is the getting started phase. Many of you may have already reached this point and beyond, in which case, congratulations. But don't worry, we'll soon be at your current stage. During a day at the library, Tom was asked to pick up 1,984 inches for his mother, who was quarantined, when he came across a copy of The Richest Man in Babylon. Yes, I literally fell. He didn't watch his step while admiring a cute red-headed clerk, and he scattered books all over the floor. An Assured Road to Happiness and Prosperity, read the back of The Richest Man in Babylon. Maybe this was exactly what he needed. Tom obtained the book on loan. The red-headed clerk was still laughing at his gaffe. How humiliating. She was even cuter from this angle. Tom hoped he'd see her again. Pay yourself first. According to the book, Tom should pay himself 10% of his monthly salary before doing anything else with his money. This was clearly what his boss James was missing. He didn't pay himself first. He was the first to pay Sitka, Night Force, and American Airlines. The more Tom got to know James, the more he realized James didn't pay himself. Not that there was anything wrong with that. It just didn't seem like a good way to become self-sufficient. All we have to do is decide what to do with the time we have. This is exactly what you should do during the first stage. Pay yourself first. The stock market is an excellent vehicle for turning a small sum of money into a large sum of money. However, it is not suitable for enlarging only a small amount of money. You should treat the stock market like a Swedish smorgasbord this early in your journey to financial freedom. Have some eggs, a few meatballs, and maybe some herring. You can't guess what a meatball tastes like. You have to eat one. It's similar to investing in the stock market. If someone suggests you invest without real money on a simulator or something, say no way. However, avoid the fermented fish as much as possible. Tom discovered this the hard way. After finishing The Richest Man in Babylon, he moved on to Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. He was pretty disappointed that he didn't bump into the cute redhead at the library, but at least he learned that the stock market is an excellent place where savings can be converted into assets. Despite having no prior investing experience, he soon found himself on Reddit, reading speculative tips on various biotech companies. It got off to a great start, with high initial returns. In just 1 week, $5,000 became $10,000. But before long, he discovered what could be expected of this strategy. The little money he had quickly dwindled by 60%. For Tom, the fermented fish was unprofitable nano-biotech companies. He had just fallen off the peak of Mount Stupid into the valley of despair on the Dunning-Kruger curve. Despite knowing nothing about Warren Buffett, Tom had learned his most important rule: never lose money. Actually, he was so lucky that he also learned Buffett's second most important rule: never forget rule #1. Even though the losses were staggering in terms of percentage, they were manageable in terms of dollars. Tom's losses were covered by his salary within 2 months. Unlike a coworker who had gone all in on a newly created cryptocurrency and thus had an entire can of fermented fish, Tom was still in the game. But he realized that as his savings grew, the stakes would rise and mistakes would become increasingly costly. As a result, Tom resolved to become a learning machine. Every time he ate at home, he would watch one of his favorite financial YouTubers. When he went for a walk, he would listen to his favorite podcasts. Tom was gradually pulling himself out of the valley of despair. Tom went from $0 to $20,000 in almost exactly 2 years by doing the following: saving $1,000 per month as a junior engineer at General Motors, losing approximately $2,000 by investing in unprofitable nanobiotech companies, and losing $1,000 in brokerage commissions. Yes, Tom traded a lot in the beginning. Tom can't be accused of being a great stock picker this early on, so it was really the savings that carried him the entire way. This time is different. Stage 2. Tom's journey from $20,000 to $100,000. Tom's father wanted to have the talk with him when he started his 3rd year at General Motors. No way! Not that talk! Your saving efforts have impressed Tom, your mother, and me. Do you want us to chip in another $10,000 so you can buy your own place? You might think it's a luxury and an opportunity, but you'd be wrong. This is a snare. Tom knew nothing about Charlie Munger at the time, but Munger would say, "The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily." Fortunately, Tom had heard of Robert Kiyosaki, the author of the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Kiyosaki added, "The house is an asset. You want to buy assets." As a result, Tom politely declined the offer and continued to invest in the stock market. The second stage is distinguished by the fact that the stock market is no longer insignificant. A significant portion of the $100,000 should come from stock market returns, or you'll be doing more heavy lifting than necessary. As Tom did, you may feel empowered by the fact that you are now a person with some means, but don't let this distract you from your goal. So despite the fact that you can now afford a decent car and other more expensive materialistic items, don't get too excited about something like a down payment on a house just yet. You don't want to stymie compounding's effects now that it's just getting started. By the time Tom was 27, he was deeply involved in stock market company analysis. He vividly remembered the outcomes of his unprofitable nano-biotech speculation period. A few years ago, and now only invests in what he understands and can do a back-of-the-envelope DCF on. He didn't try to make any brilliant or advanced investments, but instead followed Buffett's mantra: I don't look for 7-foot bars to jump over. I look for 1-foot bars to step over. The phone rang for Tom. Stephen, the top of Tom's high school class, had gone on to graduate from the University of Pennsylvania with a major in finance. "Tom, I've just discovered a fantastic investment opportunity. It's the startup, you see. They're the metaverse's equivalent of Walmart. I'm curious, where is their PE? Are you kidding me, Tom? PE? This is a new business. So when do you think they'll start making money? I'm not sure if it matters. We'll make a fortune once they go public. I'm putting down $50,000. How much do you want to contribute?" Tom trusted Stephen and looked up to him in financial matters. However, this seemed to contradict what people who had demonstrated long-term market success advocated. Would Peter Lynch have jumped at this opportunity? Choose a business that any idiot can run, because sooner or later, any idiot will run it. It didn't appear that any idiot could run the metaverse's Walmart. Okay, I'll make a small contribution. Can I contribute $500? Ha! $500? Wuss! During this time, Tom made an effort to not be stupid. As Charlie Munger would have put it, Tom only did a few things that others didn't seem to care about. He knew it wasn't smart enough for someone like Stephen, but he bought Google stock when it had a low PE compared to its peers, some Microsoft, and yes, some Walmart. Price, and more price. He realized that making mistakes would now be more expensive, and could set him back months, or even years on his path to financial independence. Tom also continued his education. He was returning to the library one day to get a copy of Howard Marks's The Most Important Thing. He fell not once, but twice this time. First, let's focus on the girl, second for the lady. The red-headed clerk tripped on her again as he rounded a corner while she was sorting books on the lower bookshelves. "You're a real kitty." She made fun of her habit of landing on her knees. Only 7 lives remain. Did she recall him? Tom wasn't sure if that was a good or bad thing, but it reminded him of how cute she was up close. From that day forward, he decided that reading is best done in a library. Peace and quiet, and he eventually dared to ask Sarah out on a date. They clicked right away. They would sometimes take turns reading aloud to each other because they shared his interest in books and frugality. They dubbed these dates Reading and Chill, so it's safe to assume they didn't just read about budgeting. However, we stop imagining Sarah and Tom together at that point because this is a PG-rated channel about personal finance. Let's talk about budgeting. Sarah was a neat freak, whereas Tom was not. She was also meticulous about her finances, which became theirs when they moved in together. Tom was fortunate in this regard, and the change assisted him in increasing his savings rate. Sharing a home's rent with someone was also cost-effective, even though they had to move to a slightly larger apartment. Simultaneously, his responsibilities at General Motors increased. He was no longer regarded as a junior. During this time, Tom was able to increase his monthly savings from $1,000 to $1,500. He also had above-average stock market returns of 10% per year, which combined to make him a $100,000 owner on his 29th birthday. The first $100,000 is a pain, but you have to do it, according to Charlie Munger. Whatever it takes, even if it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon. Find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can take your foot off the gas. Tom's stomach churned when he noticed the snowball gaining speed on its own. What he didn't realize was that he would lose nearly 40% of his wealth just 2 years later. Stage 3, Tom's journey from $100,000 to $1 million. Do you hear what I'm saying, Tom? Stephen had called. I don't think so. What exactly is... Exactly... That's the sound of me driving my new Tesla. Isn't it strange how quiet it is? Yes, it is extremely quiet. Stephen, did you get a raise? No, it's the Wall Meta startup, you know. They've decided to go public. Okay, so that's not how Tom became a millionaire, but it's how his friend Stephen did. When Wall Meta went public, it made a 2,400% return, and Stephen was now the proud owner of $1.25 million. Tom's $500 investment yielded only $12,000. Despite the fact that $12,000 was only slightly less than what Tom could save from his salary in a year, it irritated him that he hadn't been more assertive. Ha! $500? Wuss. He tried to repeat to himself a Warren Buffett mantra. Half of all coin flippers will win their first toss. None of those winners will profit if he continues to play the game. How could Stephen possibly have known? He had never shown any particular interest in neither technology nor anything meta before. Tom seriously considered whether Stephen would continue to play that game if he survived. Many years later, another call with Stephen would take place, with a different outcome that you will hear in a minute. Tom was now in his early 30s, and it wasn't just Stephen who did things differently than him and Sarah when it came to material things. Everyone at work seemed to be outdoing each other in terms of cars, clothes, and dinner reservations. Basically, there is no evidence of frugality. I'm not saying that an expensive lifestyle is bad, but you should consider the opportunity cost of your choices. Will you be able to close your stock market account after opening the gate and letting some money out? The power of habits should not be underestimated. One part of Tom, perhaps his prefrontal cortex, ignored his peers' extravagant lifestyles and wanted him to focus on his own goal. Remember, Tom, you don't want to be reliant on this in your 60s. But another part of him, perhaps his amygdala, wanted to show his male colleagues that he too was a wealthy man. He couldn't exactly show them the numbers in his portfolio every day. After all, that would be awkward. Wouldn't it? It's not subtle enough. He tried to recall something he had seen on YouTube. What you don't see is something about that wealth. Recognize that when you see someone driving around in their Lamborghini, you're also witnessing someone who is a Lamborghini poorer. So, is it worthwhile? For the YouTube algorithm, Tom liked that video. A true role model for all of us. An unexpected event would assist Tom in an unexpected way. The stock market crashed just as he was about to turn 31. Over the course of the year, the S&P 500 fell by more than 50%. Technically, Tom was back at stage 2 because his net worth had dropped below $100,000. But Tom was unconcerned. He had mentally prepared himself for this moment. Simply keep swimming, simply keep swimming, simply keep swimming, swimming, swimming. Tom didn't subscribe to the Swedish investor on YouTube, but if he had, he would have known that, as the bear case is the best case. Fortunately, he was aware of Benjamin Graham, who clearly had better analogies up his sleeve. If you are shopping for common stocks, choose them the same way you would buy groceries, not the same way you would buy perfume. And there were discounts on every single item in the stores at the time. Tom knew that now was not the time to splurge, but rather to invest in exceptional businesses that pessimists couldn't get rid of fast enough. While he usually made more than 8% per year in the markets, he made 30% and 45% in the 2 years following the crash, respectively. When Tom turned 33, a lot of things happened all at once. His portfolio was now contributing more to his savings than his salary did. Still, stock market returns are around 10%, which is quite average. His daughter had just turned 2, and both Tom and Sarah believed that children should grow up in a home. Both of them had. So they decided to buy one. He and Sarah split the $60,000 down payment because they were now married. Tom's compounding machine suffered a setback when he was charged $30,000 for it. Even Warren Buffett, he remembered, spent 10% of his net worth on a house in 1958. And to be honest, Tom felt he had pushed the decision as far as he could. When Tom turned 35, he switched from General Motors to Ford Motor Company because he was offered a 20% raise for the same number of hours worked. Despite his higher salary, his portfolio returns outperformed his pay during some months during this time period. In other months, he may be down by $20,000, leaving him discouraged. This is the time when your patience and perseverance as a wise investor will be put to the ultimate test. The additional deposits you make will have no immediate impact on the value of your portfolio. Making the wrong investment decisions can feel disastrous, while making the right ones can change your life. But stick to your process and be cautious about projecting those monthly returns into the future. Tom did decide to stick to his process, and he also made another contrarian decision. While many of his Ford colleagues increased their working hours, he used those hours to beat the stock market, and it was profitable. Tom was gradually but steadily becoming an investor who outperformed the market year after year. Overperformance of 4% per year suddenly meant $25,000 more in his pocket than the average investor with the same amount of capital could obtain. The hourly wage from researching stock market companies was now extremely profitable, and it just kept getting better. Tom began to consider his half-forgotten passion for photography near the end of this phase. This was a hobby he had always intended to pursue if he could find the time. He established a small wedding photography business. A little extra money would probably make it even easier for him to quit his job when the time came. Stage 4, Tom's financial independence. Tom made $1 million and quit his job to live off his investments before his 44th birthday. More than half of that money came from stock market returns, and his investments helped him reach this figure 14 years sooner than his salary alone would have. Tom was confident that his stock market returns would cover his yearly expenses with this amount of money. Tom is now spending more time doing what truly makes him happy: investing in stocks, going on hikes, trying to improve his photography skills, and, most importantly, spending more time with his family and friends and becoming a better father. He even agreed to coach his daughter's tennis team, because a man who does not spend time with his family is not a true man. Overall, Tom is now in charge of his own time, earning a good living and doing more of what he enjoys. Then he decided to call Stephen, whom he hadn't spoken to in a few years, and tell him the good news. "Do you hear what I'm saying, Stephen?" "Hello, Tom." "It's been a long time." "No, what is exactly?" "On a Monday morning, that's the sound of us not working. Am I correct?" For some reason, Stephen didn't take the joke well. "What's up, dude?" "Tom, do you remember how popular Walmeta was?" "Yes. So with that money, I retired." Stephen, I am aware of this. So I took that money and invested it in a company called Starverse. Oh, what a horrible name. Yes, I understand, but they promised to be the Starbucks of the metaverse. And, I trusted those guys, but they messed everything up. My boss was furious when I said I wanted to return, but he let me in. Anyway, retirement is not in the cards for me, unless, of course, I can find a Beyond Meta. What is unique about this story? Maybe nothing, which is also the point. Many of you can probably earn more than Tom if you work hard enough. If you really try, many of you can probably get better returns from the stock market. If Tom, a regular guy, can achieve financial independence by the age of 43, so can you and I. A slightly unusual story is that of Warren Buffett and how he made his first $1 million at the age of 31. Examine it out. Guys, cheers.